playing on Sundays. I know it's the biggest day of the week, but it's a little different here in the U.S. Because we're not on Party Poker, we're not on Poker Stars, we're not on all the big monster sites. So it is the best day of the week, like for fish, but on ACR it's more of a landmine dodging kind of thing. So it can be very challenging, very frustrating, obviously, as everybody knows. We're going to go ahead and first look at possible satellites. This is the easiest way, I think, to find them. Just find a tournament of the same size that you want a satellite into and see what it has listed. Like, this is an NL08, which I'm not going to play. But there's satellites for $100, and it looks like, yeah, not a lot of satelliting going on today. Here's a 3X at 530. So there's 3 tickets to this, going off at 5:30. I don't think there's much else going on. Let's take a look at the mediums. I just don't want to play a. Well, maybe I do. Hang on. It might be a better day to play satellites. Let's take a look. So here's a 200. What are we satelliting here? Oh, there's a lot of those. That makes sense. So here's a 5X. No, that's the 19th. Date and time, please. So the 19th. No, they're all pretty much running. Yep, if you're going to play. Oh, look at this, though. What do we got here? So this one's in 5 hours. It's at 4:30. For a $215 ticket, it's giving away 10. And is this the structure I like? Yeah, it is. 8,000 starting chips, 12-minute blinds, and 16 levels of late reg. So that's quite a bit, but 2.5 hours late reg. Let's check out the actual structure. So 8,000 chips, 16 levels, so it gets to 800 after the 16 levels. Cool. And then it goes 1,000, 1,200, 1,600, 2,000. It's not bad. Because we're basically looking to 10x our stack, a little bit better than that. So, yeah, this is the structure and the format I like. $20 tournament, or $20 satellite. It's kind of big for my satellite budgets, but I do want to play in bigger tournaments, so I think it's smart to play in bigger satellites. So we may play that. We'll look at that. That one doesn't start till 4:30, and I kind of want to get my day started at my day's play. Actually, let me look at this one more time. I want to start my day's play about 3 o'clock. So this is the. Oh, that one's already running. Yeah, I guess that's the next possible thing here. Although this one's starting at 12:30. Does that say 15 seats? Wow. Oh, it's to the takedown. So you're going to get a ticket specifically to the takedown. Which, not bad, but you're satelliting into the main event. And I'm never playing it. I'm just selling it, but it's a good satellite. 25,000 starting chips, 5-minute blinds. Nah, this is not going to be a good satellite. Because right here, you're at 25 blinds after about 35 minutes. Yeah, this is kind of a gamble fest. Yeah. Alright, so there's nothing there. So we'll put the filters on. And we'll take a look at the mediums. So we're looking for right around, I think like between 2 and 3. I have a couple things I want to do. I want to do some cooking and all like that. It's 10K re-entry. These aren't the greatest structure. Progressive knockout, Big 10. 33 is a little high. Yeah, I think that's a little higher than I'm willing to play for on a Sunday. Just there's no way to just control anything. What time does this one start? I can't. My brain's not working yet. I can't figure out 3.5 hours from now. 3 o'clock. Well, Big 10 progressive. Is this the 200K format? Yeah, 200K. So you already start out with 100 blinds. They just up the chips. Like, you could make this 2,000 chips and start the blinds at 1 and 2, and I think it would, yeah, or 10 and 20, and that would be fine. But for some reason they like big numbers. So you're at 20 blinds, about 10 levels in. It's kind of aggressive. I mean, it's less than 2 hours, and the starting stack comes in at 20 blinds. I mean, I guess that's good because people are going to late reg, and then we just kind of scoop up bounties. This might be playable. Maybe we'll try to spin our way in. I mean, I like it, but see, now here, this is interesting. There's a satellite here. See, they should run more of these. If you ran the $5 satellites to these, you would just crush, right? Like, just a $5 satellite into a 33. Or what? Even a $6 satellite, right? So then that's every like 5.5 entries, you get a seat. So then what? You do like, 5 or 10 seats guaranteed. Yeah, they don't make the best satellite things on ACR. I don't know why. I really feel like they would get much better. Like I'm borderline entering this with the bankroll I'm at because it's just very high end. But it's a good tournament, and I would play it if I could satellite in. Like that's the kind of thing where I would even satellite in a 660 tournament to this. I would spend $20 satelliting just because I just want to beat the extra $10. So I would spend 3 buy-ins on it, and then if I missed it, I missed it, and I wouldn't play. Let's leave this over here for now. I wanna think about it. Other than that, I really don't think that there's much. Here's a 55. Maybe there's a satellite somewhere we like. Yeah, these are good. Yeah, there's nothing. Dude, it's like, what are you doing? Like, there's a dollar satellite into this. Where you're trying to satellite in for $55. So that's. Is that a dollar buy-in? Yeah, this is a shit show, man. Like, you have to 55x your stack for the value, and there's 5 tickets, and there's still like 40 players left with 7 levels to go. That's a shit show satellite, man. I really wish they would just, because it takes away opportunity from players. See, like, these are good, but this isn't till 2 days from now. This is a mega value. 25K, 5 minutes, 24 blinds by registration. You only have to 11x to get the value of the ticket. Yeah, it's depressing, man, that they don't have more satellites. I don't know why. So okay, so that's it on the mediums. Honestly, I'm not looking to play mediums on a fucking Sunday. So let's see here. We're just going through the. Hey, what's up, Hearts? How you doing, man? I'm just going through the day's schedule. We're gonna do some hand quizzes in a minute. I just kind of want to plan out my day because I don't play a lot on Sundays anymore. But this week kind of worked out that I do. Like, it's not that I don't anymore. I just don't particularly look to build my week around Sunday like I see these other players do. I mean, I'll play cash a lot. Cash on a Sunday is good. So here's the Big Ten 10K, but I want to play tournaments today, is why we're looking at this. Okay, this is the exact format I like. This starts at 2 o'clock. We're absolutely playing that. This 20,000 chips, 8-minute blinds, perfect. 15 levels, perfect. I don't want to play any hypers on the gambliest day of the week. Okay, this is fun. So this is the same format, but it's going to start before the other one. So this one starts at 1, so we'd be an hour late. An hour late is fine in these, because you're looking at, what is that, level 7-ish, 8? So you're coming in, I would re-enter at 225, 450. So we're going to be right in here, 400. I would re-enter these, especially the smaller buy-in ones, all the way to like, 600, if I felt like I was playing good. So this is definitely on the menu. Yeah, so this one will be first. But I'm going to register one in the middle and then a couple of them late. So let's keep looking to see what we find. I don't like the hyper. That's the 10K. I have that. The Boski on a Sunday? I don't think so, man. Like, that tournament is such a beast. Like, it's a great tournament, and I love it. And it kind of reminds me of the old party poker tournaments. Because you need 1,500 players, man, to make this guarantee for $10. And I've won it, before. And it pays off like $2,800, something like that. But it is a very much so a slog. I guess it kind of depends how I feel. If I feel like I have it in me, then I'll go for it. But like this tournament that starts after that is going to end before it. Like this tournament starts, what is that? Like 15 minutes later. It's going to end before the Boskies even at the final table. So you got to kind of manage and know where your expectation of your stamina lies. And today it's just not there. Had a great night yesterday, but I feel good, but I definitely don't have 12 hours in me or 10 hours. But I got a strong 8 or 9, I know that. So this one starts 3:45. Oh god. Oh, I don't have the other ones open yet. That's what the problem is. The micros aren't up here yet. Yeah. All right, so let's go back. So here's the 30K. Starts in 26 minutes. $15 30K. This is a good tournament. A lot of play, I think, in this one. 25K starting stack. You're at 50 blinds pretty quick. 45 minutes in, you're at 50 blinds. Like, this is that structure that I don't really like. The blinds are slow, but you have to be in this one from the start. So you're talking about a 3-hour late reg, and at the end of it, I think you're at 2,500. Yeah, so you're at 10 big blinds at the end on a starting stack. So we're looking to go to 100, or yeah, I guess 125, 130,000 by there. And this is how I kind of look at it. I go, what does my stack do after that? So let's say I'm at 120,000 right here, right? With less than, with about, or screw it, we'll just say 50 big blinds right here. So what is that? That's like, well, I guess 100 would be a $250,000. So let's say we're at 125,000. 15 minutes later, we're at 3,000. That's still 43 blinds. Then we're at 3,500. That's about 35-ish. And then we're at 4,000 an hour in at 125. Now you're at 30 big blinds, which isn't bad being this far into the tournament. But the jumps kind of get big. So by the time you're at 500,000, you'd want to be at $250,000. Yeah, it's doable. This isn't as bad as I originally thought it was. But I'd have to be there pretty much. I could be 45 minutes late. Like, I could get here at 50 blinds. It's going to be kind of a fish fest, so we're going to be just picking off stacks. I like it, but it doesn't fit my timeline. So I'm going to give it up. I don't want to start playing till like 2. Let's see here. Progressive knockout, $6. It's going to be too early. Is this that one we already opened? Yeah, it is. Okay, so that's 1 o'clock start. Alright, so we got stuff after that we can late reg. This is the hyper. No, thank you. What time is this one? This $4 start. This is a format this is like my second favorite format. This is kind of like the Boski. But this will go quicker. So that starts at 1:30. We would enter this late. I think we could enter all the way up to level 5. So that makes 2:30. But obviously, if we're getting started at 2:30, I think this is fine. Which I do plan on being somewhere around there. So we'll hang on to that one. That'll be a late reg. This one starts at 2. I'm trying to decide if I want to be here right from the start or if I want to show up a little late to this one. So let's see. So that's this one. Yeah, the big 10K. Right now, that's the feature. So then a half an hour later, these 3 start. I like these 2. I don't like this 1K. I've actually won this 1K, but when I won it, I was like, yeah. And then it wasn't worth it. Like, because I won, it met the guarantee and a little over, which is pretty much what it does. And it paid like $180. And it was like, yeah, it feels good and all like that, but it was kind of an overinvestment. Like, if the buy-in to it, I know it sounds weird, it seems like nitpicky, but if the buy-in was like $3, and you win 180, that's cool. But if it's 5, you're going to have a couple of re-entries. I don't know. I don't know. And plus, the format is, not the greatest. I mean, this is the reason, because I was kind of playing it to try to learn this format. Quarter million, 10-minute blinds. I mean, it's a 2-hour late reg, but it gets gambly kind of quick because you get a quarter million chips, but an hour in, the blinds are at 3 and 6,000. So it's kind of bad. I mean, you're at 25 blinds, 10 levels. And it's not enough of a payoff. The 1,500 and the 2,500 are good. I like those a lot. And those start just after this one, so 230, right? So these would be after regging those. So we'll see. If we make this Big Ten the feature, that might be the move to get started at 2 p.m. Then we're coming up on the Boski. This Hyper 1K is a lot of fun. I've won that. Now playing that's even a worse structure, and it's a Hyper. But I actually like it. I've done well in this a few times. I think I won it twice in the past year. I haven't played it all that much, but it's a good format. It's kind of fast, 3-minute blinds, 30 levels. But you do get a lot of play because the blinds don't go up that quickly, right? Like, look at this. Like, we're 11 levels in, and, you start with 50,000 chips. You don't get to, 100 blinds, until 16 levels in. But it are 3-minute levels, so, in that respect, I think it's one of those things that freaks people out. So, this one starts at 3. We could definitely play that. Then there's the Boski. There's this progressive knockout that's not a big enough buy-in for me to play. This one's at 4 p.m. This is the structure I like. The 4K guaranteed. I think that's near the top end of my regging range. Yeah, I don't want to go till 6:45. Okay, so the feature is going to be this Big Ten. So my move is I'm going to note this tournament. Write it down. Big Ten. Okay, with a 1650 buy-in. That one starts at 2 p.m. And I'm just writing that down on a notepad. And so what I'll do is when I come back at 2 o'clock, I'll open up this tournament and I'll see it, I'll register it, and I'll start playing. And then I'll be looking behind it to see what I want to enter. And yeah, I'm not going to play this fucking thing. It's just too much. Yeah, the structure's not great either. And then when I see what's registering behind it, this one will be from an hour and 18 minutes before. So we're absolutely going to enter that. I'm going to write that down so I don't forget, because it's kind of far back on the list. I don't want to lose it. 4K. It's an $11. And that one started at 1 p.m. So we're going to be an hour late to that. And we'll register that one, which will be fun because we're already kind of, not shallow, but medium stack when we enter. Like 50 blinds. That's not medium, but it's not 150 blinds like when you start. This one starts at 130. This is the 4K $4. So same prize, smaller buy-in, which I got no problem with. This one starts at 130. So we got that. And then after, we're in the 2 p.m. This one starts at 2:30, and so does this one. These are the micro monsters, I like to refer to these as. So this is a $1,500, $3, $2,500, $250. These are great little bankroll builders. Don't get me wrong, you pay for real money. This $1,500, even that one, right? So it takes 500 players to get this guarantee. Check it out. You get $280 for first, man. It's pretty rad, for a $3 tournament. That's pretty awesome. It can be heartbreaking when you get to the final table and make what was that, like $20 or something? What did I say, 500? So the final table's $28. But if you come in, even in the middle of the pack here, man. For a $3 buy-in, getting 5th place here on the final table. You're talking 22 buy-ins, man. That's pretty awesome. And 6.5 of my average buy-in at $10. Plus, playing stuff like this does lower your average buy-in, so it's kind of smart because you don't go off on a bunch of big-ass tournaments on the most volatile day of the week. So, yeah, I'm going to play both of these, I think. 1.5K, 275. That starts at 230. And then we have the 25. Oh, that's a 330. Sorry, 330 buy-in. And then we have the 2500 guarantee. 275. That's a fun tournament. I've done well in that. I don't know if I've won that one before. That one starts at 230. So now we got 5 on the list that'll, will definitely be in pretty much all at the same time, which is fine. I mean, if I don't do well in the late regging 4K, then I'm obviously not going to re-enter it. This starts at 430, but it is a satellite, so it'll be over. I don't want to play a satellite that late. I don't know if I'll have the patience. So let's see here. What's up, Hab? What's up, Nike? What's up, Abbott? So if this starts at 4:30, my day starts at 2. I'm going to be 2.5 hours into play. This thing's going to take, it's going to take about 3.5, maybe 4 hours to get to the paid ticket. So that's going to be, let's see, 4:30. That's 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 p.m. I'll think about it, but I don't think I'm playing it, honestly. I don't want to play a satellite that late. It's just way too much gamble. 3 p.m. Hyper. Yeah, we can get in that one. Hyper tournament. Those are always fun. Hyper. 1K. 6:30. Save a little rake there. This one starts at 3. And then we have this 4K down here. What time does this one start? 4 p.m. Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, if I'm starting at 2, I'm 2 hours in. I could definitely register it. It'd take till about 11 to win, but I think if we go far in this, we'll be fine. What's up? Good luck today. Thanks, Nike, man. I appreciate it. I'm just going through the day's schedule and planning it out. I'm going to start my Sunday play on at about 2 o'clock. I do have a couple things I got to do, but I just want to go through this and see, show you guys the process. So let's say here. So this is a 4K, 6. Yeah, it's a $6. I'm gonna play it. It's that format of 20K chips, 8-minute blinds, 15-minute levels. I think it's the strongest format on the site, honestly. I mean, it just gels best for me. But I do think it's the best thought out format. It's one of the oldest too. So that one starts at 4. So we got entries at 2 o'clock. We're going to come in, and we'll have 3 tournaments right away. And then at 2:30, another tournament start, or 2 more tournaments start. And then at 3 o'clock, the hyper starts, and at 4 o'clock, this one starts. I think that's a pretty good balanced entry for the day. And now let's do some Jonathan Little hand quizzes, and hopefully we'll find some good ones and not any by aggravating Coach Brad that we trashed yesterday. If you guys didn't see that yesterday, it was pretty funny because I got so goddamn mad at the way that was being done. It was the worst. Let's see. Go to the quizzes, man. It's always funny to me, 99.9999% of the stuff on here I completely agree with, or I'm like, whoa, I never thought of it that way. And I get a lot out of the training, but that was just the worst. This guy. Ugh, he's got a new one. I don't want to. I mean, at least he's playing 2-5. Playing 2-5, it plays differently. Do I want to really? All right. Let's give him a chance. I'm gonna give Coach Brad a chance. Oh no, that was this guy. That wasn't him. Who is that? Oh, I don't recognize the picture. It's a bad picture. All right. So what do we got here? Who's all in the thing? I feel like. What do I feel like? Do I feel like a particular coach? Let's see. What's up? Good luck today. Thanks, Nike. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I just planned out my day, and we're gonna do some hand quizzes now, man. Unless you guys want to talk about some stuff. I saw Shanji last night. It was really good, and went out with Courtney and her boyfriend and his girlfriend, which was a lot of fun. And we came back here and hung out and just kind of had music going, and yeah, it was really cool. Great movie though. Let's see. Just want to find something that tickles my fancy. Like, I'll sit down and grind through these sometimes, but honestly, I think they're more fun to like look for something that you're interested in. Like, you can see, like, I just kind of went through and banged through these. Um, hmm. So many good ones. You know what? Let's go to the more recent stuff. That's fine. And I'm just gonna pick one. Hey, here's Gripst. So let's play a tournament with Gripst. Let's see. I don't always agree with his play, but I can always kind of see his point. Faraz Jaka. This is the Falls View Day 2. This is what I was saying. I don't want to study stuff that I'm not going to run into at my buy-in level. So, you're talking about stuff like a $10,000 tournament. Like, some things will apply, and I think if Jonathan Little's doing it, I think it always applies, because I think he wouldn't post it if it didn't apply. So, yeah, let's try Jonathan here. I like Jonathan Little a lot. Okay, hang on. I gotta fix the sound here. So how do I do this? So that's muted, but now the sound is on. There we go. All right, let's see what Jonathan Little has to say.
We have pocket queens in the World Series of Poker main event, facing a limp from a probably tight player. Should we fold? Well, don't do that. Should we call? Should we raise to 900? Or should we raise to 1,500?
I mean, it looks like we're pretty deep here. This player has 150 big blinds. We have 250. You can get carried away, but I think the raise here is 1,500 because I want to make about a pot-sized bet. And if I am getting limp raised, like by a trap, I kind of want to find out early. So I like 1,500. You could definitely go 900. It is the main event, so people are just going to see 3x. You'll see a limper even fold to 3x in a fish tournament. So. But yeah, I like 1,500.
This is a great spot to make a standard raise. Standard raise against a limper is to about 4.5 or 5 big blinds. You don't want to raise to 300 because then the limper's just getting amazing odds to call and he's not really making any sort of error by calling. But when you raise to 1,500, the limper, in theory, should fold out some of their junkier hands. But when a tight player limps, they're usually not limping junky hands to begin with. They're usually limping pretty good stuff like suited aces, suited connectors, big cards, pairs, right? So you just want to raise as much as you reasonably can. If you told me you wanted to make it like 1,800, I wouldn't really have a problem with it, although I really haven't experimented with that strategy too much. I typically just make a default raise to about 5 big blinds over 1 limper when playing deep stack like we are here. So I do make it 1,500. Only that player calls. Flop comes 10, 10, 2, and the opponent checks. Should we check, bet 1,200, bet 2,400, or bet 3,600?
So supposedly tight player, I think we're just going to bet 1/3 pot for range here. We could go big and force a guy on a flush draw to really get shitty odds, but I'm not dumb. I'm going to know whether or not the guy hit the flush, so I like a standard c-bet. I don't want to do anything out of the ordinary. I want to get value out of my good hands. And, it's 37.50 in the pot. 1,200 is just fine. You're in live chips. You can't type in a 1/3 pot bet, so, 1,200 works for me. It's a down bet.
This is a scenario where you typically want to bet frequently using a small size with your entire range. You do have to be a little bit careful if your opponent is limping with a lot of hands containing a 10, like ace 10, king 10, queen 10, jack 10, which, a lot of tight players will have in their limping range. So I'm not going to say you should bet here definitively 100% of the time against everyone, but with no really good read on our opponent, you typically do just want to bet in these scenarios. So I'm going to bet using a small size of about 1,200. You don't want to go big in this spot because then that's going to make the opponent fold out. A lot of their random underpairs and ace-high type hands are drawing pretty thin. So I just like betting here small and frequently. And also I have some 10s in my range, right? Like I'd raise over the limper with ace 10, probably king 10, queen 10 suited, jack 10 suited, 10-9 suited, 10-8 suited even, right? So I certainly have some 10s in my range as well. So our opponent can't just like blindly check raise us. I do go for the small bet, and now the opponent gets fancy and raises small. What do we do here against a probably tight player? Should we fold, call, re-raise to 7,500, or go all in?
So this is one of those ones where if it's a tight player, if he's a bad player, I could see this being aces or kings. If he's a tight players are never good players. But if he's a tight player who kind of gets a plan in his head and is playing a hand that way, then I could see him having jacks. Like he just wanted to see where, protect his hand, get to the showdown. People will also do that with club draws here. They'll make the small raise because they know that a 10 would want value, so they're going to look like they have a 10 when they have a club draw. And then on the turn, it goes check, check, and they get a free showdown. I hate when that happens. It takes balls to do it live, to like raise a guy small and then check. Honestly, though, if the guy's a tight player, I might just fold here quite a lot. Although the price is so good, and we're going to get his whole stack if a queen comes. I know that that's whatever. It's very small odds, but, I mean, if you look at it, there's 8K in the pot. We have to call 1,800. We only need, what is that, like less than 20% equity? That's like 18% or something like that. It's less than that. It's like, I could just pull out a calculator, right? All right, let's do it. Let's really do it. It's too early in the morning for my brain to work properly. So, okay, so there's 8K in the pot. It costs us 1,800 to call. So that total would be 9,800. Oh, sorry. It'd be my 1,800 call divided by the total, which is 9,800 that would be in the pot after I call. Means I need equity of 18%. I got it right. Wow. Impressive. And with two queens, we have that versus a range containing flush draws, pairs that we beat, like jacks, 8s, 9s, 10s, or jacks, 8s, 9s, 7s, things like that could limp call a raise and then bet to try to show down cheaply. We also have it against random bluffs, obviously. The only things we're worried about is a 10 and a pair of kings and a pair of aces. But honestly, I think that's even from a tight player getting a 3-bet, even if they're trapping. I think you're getting a 3-bet pre-flop. So I'm going to throw aces and kings out the window. And moving on, I don't like re-raising, because I think when we re-raise to 7,500, if the player has a flush draw and has decided to go off, he's just going to ship it in our face and we're going to have to fold. A bad player is going to do the same thing with jacks. Honestly, I like a call here. I want to see what happens. I know it seems kind of weird, but I like a call.
This is always a pretty nasty spot because it's very likely we're against a 10, right?
10 points.
The problem is we're getting amazing pot odds, and also on top of that, we're also getting really good implied odds, because if our opponent does have a 10, if we get lucky and spike it on the turn, I know it's not going to happen all that often, but if we do spike it on the turn, we're almost certainly going to stack our opponent.
I mean, that's what I said first thing out of my mouth, right? You always got to live the dream. You got 2 outs to a queen that gives you the nuts, essentially, unless he has pocket 10s exactly, which nobody's limping that. They're always opening. Even a tight player opens pocket 10s. You're not limping it. It's not strong enough. So, like, if we hit the queen, right, there's 2 outs. We got 4% chance to hit it, but our implied odds is his entire stack. So, you got to live the dream.
So here you have to put in 1,800 chips to win potentially 40,000. Now, if the turn is something like a queen of clubs, we may not always stack our opponent if they have a 10. But we're going to win a lot of chips if they have a flush draw then. Also notice the opponent could have a flush draw. It's not like we're only calling to try to make a full house here. But even then, if we are calling to only try to make a full house, we're getting about 20-1 implied odds, which is roughly what we need on a 5% shot, right? So I think we pretty much have to defend in this scenario. And we're going to call. We're not going to re-raise here, by the way. If we re-raise, that's going to result in the opponent like just ripping it in with his 10s and calling with his draws probably. But even then, that's not a great scenario to be in. So you want to call. You want to minimize the pot. Our hand has gone from being a very strong made hand on the flop to now a bluff catcher. But we're against a guy who is tight and probably isn't bluffing a whole lot. So proceed cautiously.
Taking care of my cue.
Turns a 4 of clubs, and now the opponent checks. All right. Should we check? Bet 1,800, bet 5,800, or bet 8,800?
Okay, this is one of 2 scenarios. He's either checking because he doesn't like the club, or he's checking because he does like the club, right? So he's either got a 10 and now he's a little wary, or he wanted to get to that free showdown, like I was saying, that small check raise to kind of throw us off, but now he's hit his hand on the turn. So in this scenario, we're looking for a 10 or a queen to come out. That's 4 outs. It's 8%. I don't see the value in betting here, really. I mean, I might be wrong, but I really think we just check here. see what happens on the river. And if a club rolls off on the river, there is a chance we can bluff. I know it's very likely he's limping a suited ace that just made the flush. Um, but also there's a scenario where he can have pocket deuces. So, I think we want to pot control and check.
This is a particularly interesting spot because once the opponent checks, you have to start to discount some tens. However, the opponent could certainly just have a 10 and be afraid of the clubs, right? Like, I don't hate checking if the opponent does have a 10. However, the opponent could also have a hand like pocket sevens with a club, or ace 2 with a club. Not that you think the tight guy has ace 2 too often. Or like random ace king of spades. Like, who knows what the opponent actually has here, right? So I think the right play in this scenario is to make a tiny bet of 1,800, 1/5 pot. Because when you bet 1/5 pot, what's going to end up happening is the opponent's going to potentially raise with their flushes, which is fine because I'm nearly dead against those. They're going to call with their tens, which, is fine. I'm not really putting in much money. And they're also going to fold out some hands that have equity. Or, potentially call with them like pocket sevens with the 7 of clubs, right? He's almost never check raising the sevens with 7 of clubs in the spot, I wouldn't think. So I like a small bet because it gets value from some potentially worse hands and it gets some protection from some potentially worse hands. So I think that that's going to be a pretty good strategy. You could also, of course, just check. The problem with checking is it just lets the opponent realize their equity with all their weaker hands. The question is, though, does the opponent actually have any weaker hands? If they have literally only tens and flushes, then clearly betting's just silly, right? The nice thing about betting small is that when they do have literally only tens and flushes, we're not losing a whole lot of money. You definitely don't want to bet big in this spot. A lot of people look at this scenario and think, all right, I probably have the best hand, I need to blast it. The problem is when you blast it, they're not folding a 10, and also they're not folding a flush, right? So then you're just losing a lot of money to those. I'm not trying to turn this hand into a bluff, by the way. I'm not going to bet the turn and jam the river to try to get the guy to fold a 10. You're not going to be in the poker business too long if you're consistently trying to make people fold trips. So I like a small bet, but I think checking is also fine and the default play against most people. If this player was very loose and aggressive, by the way, I would not like my bet as much because then the loose aggressive player will sporadically check raise you because they'll just look at this small bet and think, all right, I'm going to try to mess up this guy's plan and raise him randomly. They'll just do that kind of thing, and that's not what you want at all. So I like a small bet against a tight, straightforward type of player. Opponent does call rivers and 8 of hearts. He checks. Should we check? Bet 3,400, bet 6,400, or bet 12,400?
Okay, I think at this point we are... Hey, what's up, Rudy? How you doing, man? We're going to be playing today at 2 o'clock. You missed the setup, but I got about 3 tournaments starting at 2 and a full roster today, so it's going to be a lot of fun, man. But good to see you, bro. Always good to see you. I'm going to, this is just the Wake Up With Me stream, so we're just doing some hand quizzes. I'm going to wake up. I got to do some cooking. I got to have breakfast. Then I'm going to come back about 2 o'clock. But we're still going to do this for about another half hour or so. So at this point in the hand, when we bet small in the turn, okay, now I'm on board because he said checking is cool, but he's right. It does let somebody realize their equity. And I think at this point we're basically up against a pair that we beat, I think, a lot going into the river. That said, I want to make room for folding, right? So we have 68,000 chips. There's 13.5 in the pot. I don't think pocket sevens will call us if we bet 12-4. I definitely think pocket jacks would. I think pocket nines may. He could still have a 10. I think if we bet and get raised, it's automatically a fold because there's a world where we live in where you just spike the 8 on the river and he sees us betting and now he's got a 1 street trap. So I actually like 6,400 here. I was going to say to bet small, but I think going to the river, we can make that bad bluff bet that I always talk about where it looks like I'm bluffing, but I don't know how to bluff, so I'm only betting half pot. I think that's how we get called here most of the time. Some people with a 10 here will just call, obviously, because they're afraid of the flush. But I think we get called by a lot of pairs here, a lot of nines, pocket nines, things like that. The 8's kind of a really bad card because it is in that range of 7, 8, 9 that I was talking about that doesn't go away. So I like 6,400. I see his point about the bet on the turn, the small bet, because that would be, we would expect another check raise if he had the flush. So, or a 10, honestly. So I like the bet on the turn. I'm going to agree with that. I think checking, like he said, was fine, but it wasn't 100% fine. It was 90% fine, so I got a score of 9. But I'm going to bet 6,400. I'm going to see what he says. This is one where I can get wrong a lot because I'm overthinking it, but I think it's fine.
So we got value and protection
2.
on the turn by betting small.
So I should
it's
bet big.
very likely we're against a 10 in this scenario.
Really?
And if our opponent does happen to have a hand like pocket sevens with a 7 of clubs, he's probably going to fold to any bet on the river. If you are going to bet the river, I guess you have to go small. Unless, of course, you think you can blast it and make your opponent fold a 10. But again, we're not trying to make people fold trips. I mean,
See, my feeling is when you bet that 12-4 sizing, my feeling is that we allow somebody to hero call us with a pair of sevens, right? If somebody stuck around with a pair of sevens or nines, jacks especially, to this point, I think we can get paid by that. So if that's what I'm convinced he has, I think I would bet big there because I think they would call, especially a bad player. And in the World Series main event, it's a lot of fish, man. But yeah, I guess I agree with betting smaller. We bet 1/3 pot because it looks like value. If we get raised, we're never getting bluffed. So we're just getting a little value out of those hands. So, okay, so my bet was wrong. I got a little greedy trying to look like I was bluffing because a 10's never going to fold. He's right. All right.
I guess in some world, if I could tell this was all the guy's money and it was somehow invested in the World Series of Poker main event and he really didn't want to go broke and we were on the bubble and basically like every possible payout implication thing ever was happening, then, I guess maybe we can go for it. But you should never be bluffing in this spot. So just let it go check. Easy check. And this time we do lose to King 10 of Hearts, which is a hand that certainly makes sense. And, it's okay. Notice we didn't really lose a whole lot of money in a scenario where we had a overpair against trips. And, we lost some, but it's not the end of the world. Also, we made it kind of difficult to have to fold on the river. Like, imagine we did go check the turn and the opponent bets the river, as they will do with a lot of 10x when it goes check on the turn.
Yeah, I would have bet.
The opponent's going to bet like 4 or 5 or 6,000 on the river. I mean, go back to the turn pot size. You see it was 9,000 or 10,000. The opponent could very easily bet the river for like 6,000, and we would be kind of roped into hero calling, given we have strong overpair. So by betting small on the turn, we also sidestep that spot. So this is just a nice hand, I think. It's a little bit abnormal, not something I'm doing on a regular basis, but I think this worked out about as well as it possibly could, even though we lost the hand.
I'm probably going to integrate that turn bet. I like his logic on the turn bet of all the information we get on the river, right? So if the turn is checked and it goes check, then on the river with a 10, I'm betting. And he's right. I'm betting about 6,500 somewhere in there, and the guy with the queens is going to call. I'm absolutely betting because I don't think he has a flush at this point. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to figure out that the guy has exactly what he has, an overpair or a hand that he thinks he can call with. I might think I'm up against jacks. It's like we've switched the perspective. Like now I was trying to understand this guy's hand, but if I'm in his seat, I'm absolutely going to know what this dude has. So I'm going to bet the river if it goes check. But if it checks the turn and the other guy bets small at me, bets that 1,800, now I'm kind of like, why the fuck is he still betting? Am I really up against a flush? And I'm just going to call it with the 10. I am going to check the river, and then he gets a showdown. It's kind of like an early blocker bet. I really like that move. I'm going to have to use that a lot. I don't do a lot of small betting in combinations for value and information. Like when I think I have the best hand, so I don't want it to go for free. Like on the turn, I usually make my biggest bets, which at the smaller stakes is smart. If you make your biggest bets on the turn, before the decision's made, like if you don't know if you're going all in or not, like if you don't have the nuts, if you make your bigger bet on the turn, and then on the river, proportionally, if I bet like 60, 70% on the turn, and then in the river, the pot's bigger, but proportionally, I'm going to bet 40% to get called. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm going to, have the nut, know that I have the best hand, the effective nuts, and betting like 80 or 90%, but my biggest bet typically is going to be on the turn. It's a very defining street, especially at the lower levels. I don't think people know how to play it as well. So, but I really like that turn bet here. That's pretty awesome. Let's try to get in a couple more here. But thanks for coming out, guys, and saying all this. And are y'all playing today? What are y'all doing? So let's try the next one. I don't know who
In
it
this
is.
hand, you're playing a $50 buy-in, $80,000 guaranteed tournament on a large international site. The action is quite lively. You have Queen Eight of Diamonds. You're in the big blind facing a raise from Under the Gun +2, who's an aggressive reg. Playing pretty well so far. Not a ton of data, but playing pretty well. Good reg. You have 57,972 chips. Blinds are 525, 1,050 with an ante of 130. Preflop, would you like to fold, call, raise to 4,825, or raise to 6,800?
There's two pieces of information there I like. He's an aggressive reg, but he is playing good. I think we defend. I can make a case for three betting a lot, but he is kind of coming out of an early position. You know, he's under the gun +3 or +2, excuse me. I think if he was in the low jack over here, I would probably three bet more. Definitely, if he was in the hijack, I would, or button or cutoff, I would definitely be three betting. But I think his position's a little too early. If he is playing good, an $80K $50 buy-in, you know, you're talking about, God, what is that? That's 1,600 players, so it's a mega. So we don't need to be three betting and making these huge stands. I think we just want to flop a good draw or the best hand here. We can get a lot of two pairs. So I like to defend here. And we're obviously getting the right price, you know, 4-1.
So we're just going to call here, and at the end of the quiz, we'll discuss why we do
Matt Affleck,
each
I love the
action.
advices.
So here, we pre-flop call. The board comes Jack of Spades, 3 of Clubs, 4 of Diamonds. On the flop, would you like to check? Would you like to bet 1,474? Would you like to bet 2,358? Or would you like to bet 4,495?
So it's a loose player, he said, which, you know, factors in. But this is obviously one that I think favors the pre-flop aggressor because we're going to have a lot of big cards. We're going to have a lot of suity stuff. We're going to have more jacks, typically, than a player raising out of an early position. But for that same reason, I don't think we want to bet. This used to be a thing where players would probe bet. Like they would bet a third of the pot to probe and see where they were at. I don't really believe in that. So I'm going to check. That move's kind of gone by the wayside. I'm going to check and see what Matt says.
We go ahead and check here. And this reg goes ahead and bets 1,999. Now here, would you like to fold? Would you like to call? Would you like to raise to 3,999? Or would you like to raise to 5,999?
I don't know. I mean, he's betting 2,000. We could min raise to 4,000 or 3x it to 5,900. I don't see much value in calling unless we're floating. All right, we have backdoor flush draws and straight draws. I guess we could float it, but I feel like if I was going to try to take this pot down, I would raise, and I would raise it to more than a min raise, obviously. Yeah, I think if we're fighting for this one, which I think, I mean, there are times when, especially Matt Affleck says, you know, he puts up a quiz like this, and then I'm like, well, obviously we're fighting for this pot against this player, so I'm going to make a raise. And then he goes, nah, we just fold here. And the quiz ends the next streak because he's just like, what are we doing? But I'm gonna go for it here. I don't know the tempo of the tournament, but I think we have a lot of chips. I think we can make it 6,000 here, and if he calls, there'll be 6, 12, 17, 18 in the pot. We can then lead a lot of turns for like 13 or 14 and take it down, unless we're just up against an overpair. But like you said, loose player, so I don't think that's that you know, whatever. And there's a lot of good bluff turns for us too, right? A deuce is good, a 7 is good because we can have the straight draw that we check raised on. Obviously a jack is bad for us, but like a 9 is good for us. All those things. So I like the raise here. I'm going to go for it.
We go ahead and call here.
All right, he floats.
And the turn.
He's playing a different move. He's floating. It's kind of the same thing, but he doesn't have enough equity to justify the call, but he's floating. So we're going to see what he does. He's probably going to go check here on the turn.
Comes the 7 of hearts. Here, would you like to check? Would you like to bet 2,474? Would you like to bet 4,947? Or would you like to bet 7,419?
Okay, I see what he's going for, I think. The 7 came off, which makes a straight. You could get super complicated, but I think you're committing too much of your stack. So there's about 9,400 in the pot. 5-6 makes the nuts. I'm going to bet small to try and rep it, and then on the river, bet bigger.
We check here.
Check.
And
He's going for the big move. Look at this. He's going for the double check. He's going for the float, check call, then check raise turn.
And this player checks behind. The river comes the 3 of spades. Here, would you like to check? Would you like to bet 2,474? Would you like to bet 4,947? Or would you like to bet 7,419?
Polarized bet against a loose player. I don't think I'm ever going to use the low end, so I'm going to go high end, 74.19, making our hand look like 5-6 or a 3.
We go ahead and lead out here, 4,947.
Value bet bluff?
But our opponent here makes it 13,487. Now, would you like to fold, call, raise to 26,752, or raise all in?
Matt Affleck is such a fucking genius that he might have something on this player, and at the end of the hand we'll hear about it, but he might have a move here, because I think if you're going to go for the bluff here, you jam. But he might have some kind of crazy-ass 26,752 bet. To me, I think our bet was too small on the river. Now, this might be an upper-level play. So I would never be in this situation because I'm going to bet the 7,000 bet, like 75% pot. And if that gets raised, I can fold. Like, all the guy's got to do is make it 19,000, and then I'm just going to fold, right? If he thinks I'm full of shit and he makes the move, or if he has a value hand. Like, I defined my hand by using a polarizing bet, but Affleck is such a genius. He might be setting up a bad bet, bad raise, jam scenario where he can steal the biggest pot possible. Like, I've seen this from him before. So I'm kind of confused. He plays over my head, way over my head, and he plays reasonable stakes. This is a reasonable thing to play at the level of play I'm at. I play these, kind of things all the time. So in this scenario, though, I'm looking at it going, I have 50,000 chips left. I made a bad bet. I'm never making this bet, but let's say I did by accident make this half potish, a little over 55% pot bet. I'm just giving up because I feel like it's just garbage. I don't know enough about this specific spot where I get raised after this bad bet. So I'm going to fold. I'm going to see. Matt, I'm going to be wrong, but Matt's going to explain why.
Okay, so let's break down this entire hand. So pre-flop, if you said 3-bet, because people just, they raise, call too much in position and fold a little too much post-flop in 3-bet pots, and you think you can handle it, that's fine. I'd prefer you tackle a player who raised from these positions.
I said that from one position later or more. I did say that. I'm right on board.
It's a little more likely due to his increased stack size that he would raise wider here, especially considering he's only raising into one rejam stack. But that being said, I would prefer you 3-bet here more often, but that really opens a can of worms that you have to be really comfortable post-flop in difficult no-limit hold'em situations in order to navigate through. And if you feel like you don't adjust frequencies while on the fly, notice timing tells, etc., I'd recommend you just call here. Calling is what you should do most of the time. If he'd open from later.
Note, we started the hand with about 59,000, and we're covered. So we're pretty deep, man. We have, 55-ish blinds, 59 blinds, somewhere between 50 and 60 blinds. So we're deep, and it's obviously late in this tournament. So
position, I like you attacking much more. So we call. On this flop, not really a terrific board to donk lead on because it's going to be really hard to sell. Now we're donk leading a set of 3s, a set of 4s, a king-jack. Fun thing, sometimes you should try donk leading those hands because you'll find some interesting things will happen versus more aggressive opponents.
It's true.
Again, if you're just learning the game, don't open the door to the really crazy stuff right away. Work up to that, but something you can consider if you're a little bit more advanced. Now, we check here, and if we check raised on this board, again, really difficult. The only value combinations we're check raising are 3s or 4s, really.
Or
so
jack 3, jack 4.
It's going to be hard to sell that we're check raising for value. So what we should do here is call, because a lot of cards are good for us on turn and river. And most likely he's going to check turn a lot because he's going to have missed a lot of the time. This is a very hit or miss board. It's very unlikely he has a 3 or a 4. It's the jack or nothing. Now, There's a lot of cards that are good for us on the turn. A 9 or a 10 is not bad. An 8 or a queen is obviously better. A diamond is good. So we're going to check call here. If we had just nothing, we should just fold. But since a lot of turns and rivers help us, we can do what is known as an out-of-position float. Now, what we're doing here is we're pretending we have something like Jack 8 suited, Jack 9 suited, Jack 10 offsuit, and we're trying...
That's my mistake, is when we were floating, I wasn't putting myself on a range of hands that would check call here, and I should have. I think I would do that in-game more, but I think when I check call here, I have to have a more defined idea of what am I saying I have that's good but not willing to raise yet. And he's right, Jack 10, Jack 9, Jack 8, even Queen Jack, unsuited, things like that. So it's good to have those in mind. I went right to the draws, and which is not bad. It should be part of the range, but if I have 5-6, I'm relying on a 7 or a deuce to come off to sell my then bluff. So I think by having jacks in that range of what I'm bluffing with, in my head in this scenario, what I'm bluffing with for value, I think putting myself in that mindset lets me make a value bet that bluffs on the river. So I think that's fine.
Trying to get it to a showdown. Now...
So I should definitely be considering that's part of my range that calls here. It's not all draws. Sometimes I have a hand that's good enough to call, not good enough to raise.
The turn is the 7 of hearts. That's fine. 5-6 just came in, but not a ton of his range. So we check, and he checks behind.
It's not a ton of his range, but it's all of our range. We're in the blind, man, for 4-1. We're going to have 5-6.
So if you said lead out here, that's an interesting option versus thinking style opponents because you're repping essentially a set or 5-6 or nothing. And a lot of thinking opponents, if they just have air, which is going to be the most of the time, they'll just go, okay, you're probably full of it, but I'll fold. On these big international sites with lots of people gambling for the big money, I think you're going to run into more problems. Let's go ahead and check here and do the out of position flow. We would have preferred that to be a diamond, but okay, we'll see what we can do. So now the river's the 3 of spades. Very good card.
It is, yeah.
Now, we're going to lead out here for value, is what we're looking like. Okay, I got my...
See, here's where I disagree a little bit, but I'm going to say I'm wrong, even though I disagree, because Matt's done all the work. I've just yet to see the perspective. In my feeling is a value bet here should be more polarized. We shouldn't go for the value bet bluff. Like, we either have a 3, right, which makes trips, which is obviously super strong. We're going to want to get value out of that. So I think we're going to bet somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't think they had the bet up there, but I'm saying like 6,800, something like that. Maybe even 7,200, something like that, into almost 10,000. We want to bet around 2/3, 3/4 pot. And it really super defines our hand. I mean, I like staying polar, especially in these tournaments that are like mega tournaments. This is a 1,600-man tournament to get the guarantee. That's a mega, man. And you don't want anybody making close decisions on you. You want them to go, shit, or, well, I'm calling. You know what I'm saying? You don't want them to be on the fence, because when bad players are on the fence, they call. I mean, that's just it. When good players are on the fence, they fold. They're just like, fuck it, I play good enough, I'll get other spots. Bad players don't know that. And they're like, I don't get ace-jack that often here, so I guess I got to call, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think you have to bet a little bit bigger. Just for the stakes I play, like if this was the Boski, that's exactly right. But I think he's right. In a $55 tournament, these players have a little bit more money, a little bit more experience. So let's see what he's setting up here, because he never got the river answer as to what he did. Did he just fold? I didn't get full score for it. I got like 7 out of 10. But I think he has something a little sneakier in mind. So let's see what Ben does.
Jack 10, I feel like it's the best hand. I'm going to leave for value. And if he's got his ace highs, his king highs, we assume he's going to fold. And that's going to be the majority of his range. So the check raise didn't... But the way this works is on the flop, he has mostly high cards. More than half the time, more than 60% of the time, depending on how you range him. The name of the game is how do you get him to fold those, because if you get him to fold them, that works the majority of the time. Now, you couldn't really check raise, you couldn't really sell that, you couldn't really donk lead, but you could check peel and lead this river, especially if you know that he's checking more turns. Now, when we lead this river, I do a thing. I always play very fast because that tends to create more chaos, and I feel a little bit more comfortable in that after all the years of playing than maybe other people feel. I'm very used to that. So I feel like I know it's coming a little faster than other people that don't always play that fast. I led here the second the river came out, and he raised very quickly. Now, you got to think there for a second. What does he raise river with?
Full house.
When he checks back the turn, he has what is referred to as a condensed range. He has eights. He has nine.
He has eights, nines, over pairs. He could definitely have a set of jacks and now be worried about the flush depending on how, or the straight depending on how bad the player is. But I think he's right. It's a condensed range. So this raise could just be, do you really have a 3? Because I have pocket 9s. You know what I'm saying? Something like that.
Nines. He has tens. He has 7-6 suited, 8-7 suited. That turns some showdown value. He could have ace 4. He does not have a set of 3s. He does not have a set of 4s. He does not have 5-6. He does not have a set of 7s. He most likely doesn't have a jack. He does not have an overpair. He would most likely fire those hands again. So he's got all these.
Notice he didn't mention he doesn't have a set of jacks. He could definitely have a set of jacks because you're so strong, and yet versus the blind you're so vulnerable that it's a good spot to either to be polar, to either check or bet big. Didn't bet big. Did check. Could definitely have the set of jacks.
These hands with showdown value. Why is he raising? He also has a lot of ace highs that feel like this is most likely the best hand. Okay. Maybe he won't fire the river. Maybe he's just going to peel.
The reason why he's pausing is this is part of a webinar where he didn't do this one specifically for the site. This is clipped out of a webinar that he gave where he discussed this hand with the people there and said, what would you like to do? And then he stopped talking. And then people started going, I'm going to call, I'm going to bet, I'm going to raise. And he constructed the choices around the things people said most. If they said, I'm going to check raise, how much are you going to raise to? You know what I'm saying? So he has that information. So he's kind of tailoring this to the seminar that he gave online on the poker coaching site. Webinar, they call them, which are really great because it's real-time interaction with these amazing players.
With his backdoors or whatever, maybe I can get them to a showdown. Maybe he's got some king highs. Maybe he's got some queen highs. Maybe he's just got some suited connectors that miss, like a little 8-9 of hearts that he just gave up with. But he sees the really quick lead, and he goes, I don't think he'd lead that quick with a jack. I don't think he's got it. Okay, I'm going to raise. And then right as the raise goes out there, he goes, uh-oh, I don't represent anything.
Yep.
He's got one hand he'd do that with, and that's ace 3 suited.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the entirety of his value range. In his bluff, the hands he could bluff with are endless. Queen highs, king highs, ace highs are the easiest hands combination-wise, the most frequent, most likely hand to make combination-wise on this river, which is why we do this.
He didn't even shove. What balls on this guy. He just doubled the current bet out there, so he basically, he didn't click it back. He 3x'd it back because it went 6 and then 6.5 and then 13 and then he goes to 26. So he like 1/3 pot re-raised it. That's so fucking strong. It's twofold. It's super strong because it's like jamming gets the most folds. It should get the most folds because it's the most chips to risk. But when you raise small like this, it's like you're saying to this guy, I have the world, bro. Like you're basically saying, I am dying to get called and look like a moron. So like with a full house here, I'm doing this. Like you could have 3-4 in this exact scenario a lot. Now I see what Ben's doing, and I really like it. And I'm gonna have to study this more. I'm gonna have to run some numbers to feel confident. But I definitely am looking forward to integrating this one into my play.
It's also really fun if you play really quick and then the guy raises, just the second it's out there, like clicking it back. Not clicking it back, but raising very, very small.
Yeah, he didn't just min raise it. A min raise would have been to like 19,000. So he 3x'd the variable. So if a min raise is 19,000, then he made it the 26. So he basically incrementally raised 3 times. So if you bet 5,000, the other guy makes it 10,000. It's not making it 15,000. That's clickback. The incremental raise is 20,000. because you then 3 times the raise.
And he does not feel like he has another option. Now, he does have an option here, which is... The interesting thing is I used to play with guys overseas who did know you could still bluff here in his spot, right? Because if you think about it, our range is very much 7s full, quads, 4s full. It's a lot of, the best hands in the world are queen 8 of diamonds, just nothing. So if he shoves here, he could conceivably get us off of our hand. He also, he could consider a hero call with ace high. I don't think it's going to happen, but the vast majority of guys are not going to do that. The vast majority of people just can't really imagine doing that for more than half their chips. This is a really funny thing, which is I used to play with a guy that I knew for a fact his theory was he thought nobody ever shoved. He would bet a little bit more than half of your chips because his theory was always nobody shoves at there without the joint. So you could just shove as a bluff against him constantly. But he had a point. The average guy never thinks he has fold equity here. And
the reason why he doesn't think he has fold equity is because a shove here makes this bet 50,000 approximately. It's double what we have out here. So yeah, it's the majority of it's the rest of our chips, but the price now is 50,000 plus 75, so it's like 85,000. So we're gonna have to call off 28,000 to win 84,000. It looks like 83,000, something like that. So I mean, well, it's kind of crazy. We're actually going to get like 4-1. So I think you call here if you have ace 3. If the guy shoves back on you, even though there's a 50-50 chance that he has pocket jacks in this betting scheme. If you have ace 3 here, it's a snap call because when you have a 50-50 chance and you're getting 5-1 on your money, it's a call. You only have a 20% chance. So unless you know that this player would be super precious with his chips, he's never going to fold ace 3. Right? Like, why? Like, it's just it's priced out. This is those scenarios where the betting has gone to the point where nobody made a mistake. If you have ace 3 here and this guy has pocket jacks, nobody makes a mistake, but somebody goes broke. That's all the way there is to it. This guy can have pocket aces and do that, right? So if he has pocket aces, he's not wrong to jam. He's effectively turning aces into a bluff, but if you don't have specifically ace 3 or some other weird full house, or if you don't have ace 3 at the minimum, then you can't call it, right? And then it can go back to you, and you can have trappy queens here. You can have pocket 9s here. You can have jack 4 here. I know it's raggy, but you're in the blind. You can have 4-7 and feel like you're better than the other guy because he didn't have a jack on the flop. Maybe he has some kind of weird pair. He could have a suited 3 if you have a suited 3. I mean, he's never going to have a 3, but he could have a busted draw. It's kind of gross because, like, this is one where this guy can have aces, this guy can have a jack, and nobody's wrong because of the price that's worked out. So this is why these bluffs get so complicated. But in the real world, you have to come back to it and go, wait a minute, in this bluffing scenario, is my jack 10 ever good here? And I think most people are going to come to the conclusion that it is not. And they're going to get the right price and fold correctly because the results-oriented answer is correct, that they're just going to be out of the tournament.
The only time he does is if he's playing against somebody who's really directly exploiting that understanding of the game. And it's really a game of who's going to rep nothing the fastest here. But what I'm gambling on is, first of all, he just can't have anything when he raises here. But what we're really gambling on is he's not going to recognize that he has another play. And that to be fair to him, he doesn't most of the time. Most of the time when he sees this 3-bet, he's looking at the hand. It's not in his best interest to start thinking about ways he can play back.
It's a 3-bet on the river.
It's generally a good play. That's what we're gambling against. And he did end up folding. Wow. So this was a very fun hand. I'm really interested to hear to see what decision you guys pick, because this is, to me, a very good ranging problem. You can learn a lot if you're reacting on gut instinct based on this hand. If you just see river raise, oh god, we have queen high, that means we need to slow down for a second and really just take it street by street and go, what does he have when he does each of these actions? Because if you're doing that, you realize he can't really have much of anything here.
It's really fascinating. Matt's a genius.
Okay.
Yeah, Matt's a genius. He's obviously run the numbers. He has all the solvers in the world, and it's a very complicated hand. In truth, I'm going to make my life easier maybe when I'm rich and I'm playing these tournaments all the time. You know, if I have a working bankroll with a $50 tournament in there, if that's my average buy-in, so then I'd have a bankroll of something like, I don't know, $20,000. No, it'd be more than that. I'd need like what, 300 buys. Like it's like 15 or 20,000. So if that was the case, I could see doing this. But if I have a bankroll of $5,000 and I'm playing a $50 tournament, I'm not looking for these moves. I'm looking to keep my life simple. So my move on the river is to bet 3/4 pot and take the one shot. If the guy raises me, I'm just going to fold. And man, if he's got the balls and the skill to understand what's going on, and he's done that much work, like I'd probably have to be up against Matt Affleck to realize that this player is smart enough to know what I'm doing, so I should re-raise him back. But most players aren't smart enough. So when I make the defining bet of 2/3, 3/4 pot on the river, and I get raised, it's an auto fold, because I'm up against a player who is never going to fold to my re-raise, even if it's a jam, or even if it's small like he did and it looks super scary. I'm up against a player who's never going to fold to it, unless it's Matt Affleck specifically, because he knows the dynamic, and then he's going to do this, and then I'm going to jam back. I'm not going to 3-bet like small like he. Well, no, you know what? That's the move. I'm going to 3-bet small back. But like he said, you're still leaving room open for the final, raise for the all-in 5-bet or 4-bet on the river. Which, God, that's so ridiculous. I've only 3-bet bluffed the river a handful of times, and that was very specific against a player I had thousands of hands against. I knew very well, and it was a cash game too. I think I've done it like 2 or 3 times in a cash game, because if you go out there, you just reload. I think I've only done it one time in a tournament, and that was live, which took a lot of balls, but the spot was so obvious that I took it. And the re-raise, though, was all in, because I led it, made the bad bluff to get called, then got raised, realized the other player realized I was making the bad bluff, didn't know I was doing it for value, so then at that moment I turned my hand into a bluff, and pretty quickly just jammed all the chips in, and he just rolled his eyes and he folded 2-pair to me, because he thought I had a straight. It wasn't an obvious straight either, but it was out of the blind. It was like this. It was like the 5-6 that would make the straight, and it was one of those great ones where he said, "If you can show me a bluff, I'll I don't know what I'll do." And I said, "What would you pay to see a bluff?" And I remember this specifically. He told me that he would buy me a drink, and I said, "I don't drink, but give me $10 if I can show you a bluff." And his cards are already in the muck, and he says, "All right." And I turned over the raw bluff, and he gave me the $10 and bought me a drink. I didn't drink it, but whatever. And I ended up winning that tournament. This is years ago at Harrah's, way back. But it was one of those fun ones that's kind of stuck in my head because of what happened after. So, but very interesting stuff. Matt Affleck is super smart, super deep. I'm actually intimidated by his courses that he has on here. Like, I forget what his courses are. I'm going to take a look right now because I'm kind of interested. Where is he? He's got something on here. It's something with tournament play. Here it is. Deep stack strategies. Well, advanced deep stack strategies. You think? The guy just showed us how to 3-bet bluff the river for not all in. This is one of the more intimidating classes. It's only 4 hours, but I don't know, man. I feel like it's the kind of thing where I could learn a lot, but if I use these strategies at the buy-in level I'm at now, I'm gonna go broke, because I'm not up against players who are thinking like this level players. I think this is better for live play also. It's super intimidating, but yeah, he's definitely one of my favorite coaches. I think only Jonathan Little I like a little bit more just because he's so simple and he coaches very common spots. Matt Affleck gets more into the deep minutia when you're 4 hours into a tournament, you're in the cash, and you have 55 blinds like that, and the other guy has you covered. So you're like both top 10 stacks in this tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the kind of deep stack shit that wins you tournaments, but holy shit, is it hard to have the heart to do that. So, yeah, really interesting stuff. I love Matt Affleck. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to see you guys back at 2 p.m. I'm going to try to be back 2 p.m. on the nose. I might be a couple minutes late. I got to do some cooking. I cook all my food for the next 3 or 4 days all at once, just chicken and potatoes. And, yeah. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. It's going to be a fun Sunday. I know everybody's streaming, so I'm not expecting many people here. But come in and check on me, and we'll see, man. If I'm on still at, 8, 9 o'clock at night, I'm running deep in something. So fingers crossed. Sunday Funday.